Hey guys, it's Robin, RsIslandCrafts. Welcome to my craft room. Today we are going to discuss using coloring book pages to turn them into appliques or wall hangings. I'm really sorry, but I'm really bad with names, and it's been a couple weeks since someone requested it, but they saw my Papa Smurf wall hanging on the wall and they asked if I would talk about how I made it. Now, I used a really fancy labeling system, and it just says Papa Smurf 2011 Robin Lalone. My oldest son Justin, one of his nicknames has been Papa Smurf. So I thought it'd be fun to make a little wall hanging to hang up with his nickname. Plus, I love the Smurfs. Nope, I don't have a favorite. I keep changing my mind. I've always loved Papa Smurf and Smurfette. Brainy kinda, he annoys me a little. I guess maybe Clumsy. I've always really loved Clumsy. I guess I'm just always for the underdog. But anyway, let's talk quilting and applique today. Now this looks a little messy right now, but I'm also working on a little applique wall hanging. When you get like an applique like this, you'll get the original paper. This one's from westmishquilter.blogspot.com. Basically, it's an attic window quilt shop blog, and I'll put a link down below so you can see this. And it's a crazy rooster. But when you get an applique, a design that's made specifically for applique, you'll get the main paper. Sometimes it has numbers label on it, sometimes it doesn't. But if it doesn't, I always add my own. And then you'll get the sheets with the individual pieces that you cut out. And what you end up doing is you follow the diagram and you put all the little pieces together, and then you get your overall design. Right now this is a mess with thread everywhere because I am top stitching all around my applique to hold it down to the wall hanging. But when you're doing a coloring book, you don't have that same option. Because it's meant for coloring, so you just get this one sheet and everything, all the layers are together. So you have to decide. What I try to do is one of the things I try to decide is how detailed I want my design to be. Now, Papa Smurf isn't too bad. He only has a couple different layers in here and there. There's not a lot of small pieces. But if you get something that's really intricate, that has lots and lots of pieces, sometimes you have to maybe simplify an area, or decide if you might need to use a different design. But we're going to use Papa Smurf as an example because one of my subscribers wanted to know about the Smurf specifically. So you just go ahead and you Google coloring book pages, and I looked for Papa Smurf. I'm sorry if you happen to hear a lot of extra noise in the background. I have neighbors doing construction. Everyone's still trying to repair their houses after the hurricane, and we also have, for several months now, we're going to be putting city water into our area, so it's going to be very noisy. But okay, so I went and I Googled Papa Smurf coloring book because these pages are free, and really you can find just about anything you're interested in. There's just random coloring pages for everything: alphabets, numbers, animals, whatever. Then I look at my design, and for the most part, I decided that I could use pretty much all of the pieces here. There wasn't anything that was too intricate. Like, you're not going to really put the eyebrows in with fabric, and I decided to skip them completely when I did my whole piece. And one of the things also is I use a lightweight fusible to put on the back of my fabric to help glue it to my background piece, and then I stitch it down. So when you use that, you're going to trace right on the front here, but it's going to be on the back of your fabric, so you're going to end up with a mirror image. Now with Papa, it didn't really matter about the mirror image, but if there's a design that you want it to look exactly like it is in the coloring book, when you print it out, you need to either print it out as a mirror image, or you can trace your designs from the back. Now this one is kind of light from the back. You can see it a little. But when you put this down, it's just a little bit hard to see. So what you can do is you can either hold this up to a light source like a window or a light table and trace it, or you can just take a marker or pencil or crayon or pen or whatever and just trace out your design of the pieces you're going to use. And that way when you put this down, you'll be able to see it. Now I went into really deep detail about how I do fusible applique like this, and I'll put a note up here into the iCard where I was making the mug rugs last year around Christmas time, and that goes through all about the fusible and how I do all that. So we're going to skip that part today. So you've gone through, you've traced all your pieces out, you've decided it, you've put it on your fabric, and then you ironed it down. Now a couple of tips and tricks I just wanted to go over with you. Now you can see I used the buttonhole stitch to put my fabric down because after I cut out the pieces, I realized like where the arms overlap on the arms, you're not going to be able to distinguish one body part from another. So I went ahead and I just used a lighter color thread to do it. I think if I were to do this again, and you can see it also in the foot here, I took this line and I carried it over and made a whole sole out of it. What I would do next time is I would use different shades of fabric. I would use a darker red here, and maybe just a lighter shade of the blue to go on top. Because that way, from a distance, I mean, it looks alright. It's not too bad, but it looks like he's got jagged lines on it from all the buttonhole stitches. I used to love to do a buttonhole on my applique, but now I prefer to do just these, almost like a free-form outline stitch. I chose gray on this. Sometimes I use black, sometimes I'll use matching color. You can see in the area where I haven't done it yet. But with this guy it's okay because he has all these different colors and you can see all the dimension and all the different layers. But Papa here, you know, it would have been much nicer if I'd have used different colors. You know, different shades of the same color. Another good way to do it is like, even though this white and white, you definitely know the difference between his beard and his eyes. But when you do an applique like this, now flat white for his eyes works out really well because that's kind of what you expect. But for his beard, if I'd used a fabric with some type of texture to it, it's like a tonal, a white on white, where they have like little swirls or little stars or lines in it. It would have gave some texture to his beard here, and it would have added some depth to it, and it would have made it look a lot nicer. I just noticed I didn't even stitch his mouth down. If you don't want to do any stitching on your wall hanging, there are fusibles that you iron them on, and they're very stiff, and you can't sew through them because they're so stiff and tacky and there's so much glue on them. But as a wall hanging, if you're not something you're going to actually wash very often, if at all, you can go ahead and do that and you wouldn't have to stitch any of it down. But for these I use a lightweight because I know eventually I have pets and we have a dusty house that things are going to need to be washed. So I tend to always stitch my items down. But that's it. It's really, there's nothing that much different between using a coloring book page for an applique and using an actual applique design where someone took it into pieces for you. All you have to do is take it in layers. You can do it directly with your fusible, or you can do it like this and have the layers on a separate sheet of paper if you'd like. And you would just put your paper down and you draw out each section as you would decide. Like all of Papa's pants are red, but let's say you wanted to have a different color shoes. You would just determine that this piece right here would be one piece, and that would be on the bottom layer. And what you would do is, like with these pieces, how they have the dotted line, that means that this shoe would go underneath his leg. So you would draw a straight line right here, a solid line, and then put some dots to go across here so you know that a leg part goes on top of the shoe. And then just go through and make sure you number everything, because it's going to make it easier if you have... Papa's not too bad, but if you were doing something like a landscape or something with a lot of pieces, you would want to have it numbered so you can keep track of where each piece goes. Because once you start cutting this out of the fusible and you have all these little tiny pieces, you may not know exactly where they go. And then you can go through later and with either embroidery floss or with thread stitching, and you can add in the extra details if you'd like. See how I did? Papa's beard is really ruffly and, you know, hairy, and I just gave him a simple, basically oval-like shape. So I hope that answered your questions on how to go from a coloring book page to an applique. Just take it step by step. It's not too difficult, and as with anything, really, it comes down to your fabric choices. This was 7 years ago. I didn't know that much about different things, and the more you make things, the more you learn, and you learn all the different tips and tricks and, you know, helpful hints. But I still love Papa Smurf. He hangs on my craft room wall right now. He was in the hallway for about 6 years, and now he's in here with me, and, you know, it's fine. I love him. That's it until next week. See you later. Bye. If you enjoyed what you saw, please go ahead and subscribe using the button down below. And if you ring that bell, YouTube will let you know anytime a new video goes up. If you have any questions about what we talked about today, please go ahead and leave them down in the comments. I try to get to them as soon as possible, usually within the first day or two. If there's anything else you would like to have me discuss or do a Sew With Me episode on, please leave it down in the comments and I will add it to my list. Have a great day. Bye.